Hello and welcome to this first in a series of short videos designed and created to help you understand a bit more about Gospel Oak Community Benefit Society as a cooperative and cooperatives in general, and the options and opportunities that you have to get involved with it. This first video is introducing the concept of cooperatives, and we're going to cover what's the point of cooperatives, what are they all about, and why should I care? So let's just kind of start with the current preconception. Most people think of a cooperative or the cooperative as a shop on the high street where you buy stuff from, but it's much bigger and broader than that. A cooperative is an organization made up of a body of people who share a common aim, a common aspiration, a common need, and they want to address that and achieve it together. They can go further together than they can alone. They can build bigger and higher together than they can alone. And crucially, it's built on some form of trading activity. Cooperatives are not charities. Cooperatives trade to achieve their social purposes and goals. Now, cooperatives come in all sorts of shapes and types, as we'll explore through these series. But one thing they have in common is they are all united in having a shared set of common values and principles. And these are global. Wherever you go in the world, any cooperative shares these values and principles. So just to walk you through them briefly, the values are there on the left-hand side. These are the core ingredients of what it is to be a cooperative. So number one is self-help. People work together, people support each other. This is about a hand across, not a hand out, people linking and supporting each other together, stepping up for themselves. It's also about self-responsibility, saying, I can step up. I want to take responsibility for helping to fix this situation. I'm not going to be resigned to sitting back and waiting for someone else to come along. We're going to do it for ourselves. The third value is about democracy, and this is about control and decision-making and accountability within the cooperative. Members have a vote. If you're part of a cooperative, you have a say legally in how it runs, how it makes big decisions. There's a principle of a value rather of equality within that as well. All members should be heard equally and valued equally. Money buys no influence. Position carries no weight. In a cooperative, every person, every member is equally important and valuable to each other. We talk about equity as well, that there should be some form of financial stake that members have in a cooperative. This is not a social club. This is something that transforms lives and communities in a meaningful financial way. So a lot of cooperatives structure that as their membership fee, but there are other ways that can be done. And finally, the core value of all cooperatives is solidarity. Just as a cooperative allows people to achieve more together than they could apart, so cooperatives recognize that by collaborating, working in partnership with other cooperatives and other bodies who are set up to create change and benefit in communities, more good stuff can happen sooner. So those values kind of pull together the core DNA of a cooperative, and the principles are the way that that's put into practice. How do we apply those values day to day? Well, just to go through them briefly, membership of a cooperative should be optional. No one can force you to be a member of a cooperative. Otherwise, it's not a true cooperative. You are free to choose or free not to be part of a cooperative, just as you are free to join it. Members, the voting members, the people who have a stake and an investment, to a membership, a payment in that cooperative, control it democratically. There's a voting system in place. Cooperatives work with other cooperatives. It's known as Principle 6. Cooperatives are also autonomous and independent. That means they are not controlled by anyone else. They make their own decisions in their members and their community's interest. Another principle as well is about member economic participation. This is about self-help and self-responsibility. This is not about handouts or charity from the goodwill and kindness of strangers. People financially work together. That might be investing money together. It might be coming together to create jobs with each other. But there's some kind of stake that people have, whether that be £1 or £100, there's a financial interest that people have in the cooperative. Cooperatives also have a concern for the community that they're based within, beyond their members. And that community is not just the local streets and neighborhoods and estates, it's also the wider natural environment too. And finally, cooperatives in their principles have a commitment to education and training and information, recognizing that members cannot fully be aware of or use their role unless they understand what's involved. They need some education. Education, training and information to help other people understand about cooperatives and to help people understand better the issues that that cooperative is being set up to try and address. So 6 values and 7 principles, they form the core DNA of any cooperative. Now, as we've picked up, there's some core differences here in this thing called a co-op that makes it a bit like a regular business and a bit like a charity, but with some real core differences. In a private business, people invest, people are members to become shareholders, as it were, just as they do in a cooperative. But in a private business, money buys influence. The more money you can invest, the more influence you get. In a cooperative, it's a level playing field. Whether you invest £100 or £1,000, you still only get 1 vote. In a private business, any profit that's made goes back to those investors. Private individuals who are wealthy to begin with become wealthier. In a cooperative, the profit is shared either between the members or shared with the wider community. It doesn't concentrate in a few private individuals. A charity is set up to meet a social need, and it does that through philanthropic needs. So Gospel Oak has been set up, as we'll explore in one of the future videos in this series. Gospel Oak's been set up to benefit the wider social needs of the local community. But it seeks to do that through economic means, through trading, developing new services, goods, products, jobs. A charity says we're going to rely on the goodwill of strangers. We'll be philanthropic. We'll have to have people leading us who don't have an interest in what we do. A cooperative circumvents that. A cooperative says we can be the best of all of those things and keep it rooted in a set of values and principles that are social and ethical. Now, all of this, you might be thinking, this sounds great. Why haven't I come across cooperatives before? Well, cooperatives are everywhere once you start to look for them. And the research shows us that actually cooperatives are the most sustainable and impactful of all business forms out there. Cooperatives have heavily influenced the formation of what's come to be known as social enterprise today. Cooperatives underpin access to basic services, healthcare, finance, education in many parts of the world. And they've been around for as long as people have, wherever we are in the world. But they're quite low key. They're not that well known about, which is part of the reason why Gospel Oak has wanted to make this commitment to sharing what it means to be a cooperative through this video series. And we also do mapping every year. So the wider body of the cooperative movement in the UK is headed up by a body called Cooperatives UK. And every year they map out the cooperative economy. Now, we're recording these videos at the start of 2022, which means that the latest annual report on the cooperative sector is from 2021. And this shows us that there are about 14 million people across the United Kingdom who are involved as members of cooperatives, not just people who trade with them and shop with them or are employed by them, but people who've invested money and are actively engaged in how they make decisions, how they develop and run their services for the benefit of their communities. There are over 7,000 of these types of organizations as well. They employ over 250,000 people. This is no small change. And as you said, cooperatives are there everywhere across the United Kingdom. In this chart we're just showing on the screen is another extract, a quick screenshot from that cooperative mapping that Cooperatives UK undertakes. There are cooperatives in healthcare, cooperatives in sports and recreation, social clubs, manufacturing, arts and culture, housing, agriculture, education. The list goes on and on. As a general rule of thumb, whatever industry you can think of, there will be at least one cooperative within it because they're everywhere. So this has been a brief introduction as the first of this series, just to give you a bit of a grounding as to what is a cooperative and why should you care. And hopefully what we've covered off is a basic understanding of a cooperative and why you should care is, well, they're everywhere and they're the best way that we can create change and benefit in our communities. In the next set of series of these videos, we'll be looking at a bit more detail about how Gospel Oak as a cooperative society works itself, and then how all of that relates back to the wider cooperative movement, giving a bit of context and framework for the work of Gospel Oak Cooperative and how it's playing its part in a much broader stage. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.